thank you so much to the IWBI for inviting me to talk on this subject. So, sleep architecture, how to design the ideal environment for the perfect night's rest. So who doesn't love a good cat nap? So sleep is one of the most important things for our health and well-being, clearly. And I've been invited to share a unique perspective on designing the built environment. So today you're going to learn a little bit about classical feng shui, and then you're also going to learn about sleep technologies. And one of the most frequently asked questions to me is, how did you get into it? So I'll just tell you now, my father was a judo teacher, and from tiny age, 3 or 4, I've been running around the dojo, learning about Eastern arts and Zen and karate and all sorts of things like that. And Anne-Marie was interested in the relationship between these ancient arts of classical feng shui and the modern built environment. And so after having had a background in the City of London, what I decided to do was to train in wilderness survival and wilderness spirit survival, spirit philosophy. And I trained in intuitive feng shui, and then I also went off to China, and when I came back I trained in classical feng shui since 2002. And I've also been a shiatsu practitioner, and I've got a diploma in environmental psychology, and eco-psychology is some interest of mine. And so classical feng shui is one of the 8 brocades of Chinese medicine. What does that mean? If the herbalist couldn't heal you, or the acupuncturist couldn't heal you, what they would do is they would turn to the feng shui master of the local village or whatever, and they would look to the environment to see if there was anything in the environment that could help your health. So really what we're talking about here is a Taoist cosmology, and it is fundamentally very, very poignant at this point in time, and for the theme of the conference, for the climate emergency. This Taoist cosmology teaches us to relate to the planet and relate to the heavens, known as the 3 treasures. So you have heaven, you have earth, you have the human. And feng shui is all about how do you connect, how does the human connect to spirit and nature? And really what we're talking about is how to slow down in order to speed up. We need to become more aware of our energy and more aware of the energetic environment. So I've got a little exercise for you to do if you're paying attention. If you want to know what it's like to design with chi and energy in mind, I'd like you to enter what we call wide-angle vision. So depending on how much space you have, if you look to your side, come on, look to your side. Now where do you become conscious of your peripheral vision? Yeah? Is it here? Is it way back there? Or roughly about here? So where you find that, you'll notice that you're gazing. You're not sort of pointedly looking at one thing or another. You're gazing, your soft gaze. And that is the best way to look at an environment. And it could be it's all right, you can put your hands down now. That's the best way to look at an existing environment, so you can look at an interior. So I'll often go into a space and just sink into this kind of wide-angle vision, and it means that you can notice things that are very sort of microscopic, but are very important for the design. And so, why do I mention that as well? That we have. So I, together with Stephen, am on the Wellness Architecture Initiative for the Global Wellbeing Institute, and we did some research that showed that the most commonly used adjectives when describing a wellness environment was sustainable, natural, and spiritual. And I often refer to feng shui as the mother of green design, in a way, or the mother of biophilia, because like that Taoist cosmology of creating harmony with heaven and earth, we're really looking to create environments where you can feel relaxed, you can feel closer to nature, and feel closer to your own nature, more importantly. So this is more than a concept. This is a reality. You know, people are they're crying out for more connection with nature. So although natural materials and non-toxic materials are wonderful and very, very important for well-being, the awareness of energy is a little bit more profound, in a sense. So there is an energetic reality here. This isn't just a concept. In nature, you have 5 elements and 5 actions. This isn't a tutorial. We don't have time to go into too much of the tech, but you have 5 elements which all interact as a movement of energy, and they all have, you can see they have a design shape. So the water shape is quite amorphous. The wood shape is the classic skyscraper. Fire shape is less common, it's more triangular. Earth is flat, more traditional shaped buildings, and then metal is more the sort of circular or domed shaped buildings. And if you cast your mind back to ancient China, they have, in some parts of China, they have incredible mountains, the limestone karst peaks, and they all have these different shapes. Some of them are very pointed, some of them are quite rounded, some of them are quite flat. And the farmers, see, what people don't realize is feng shui is all about unifying practicalities with method, and the farmers used to depend on their relationship with nature in order to be successful. And so in ancient China, the court astrologers would travel the breadth of China and talk to these wise farmers to find out about how energy is moving. And so all of this can be applied to the urban environment as well, of course, because it's just an energy principle. You don't have to be living in nature to apply feng shui. So the sleep aspect, as I said earlier, feng shui is one of the 8 brocades of Chinese medicine, and you can see from this diagram that all the different directions are associated with different body parts and different organs. And so this is one of the main reasons why we like to have a building which is a square floor plan. So not L-shaped or triangular or anything like that, because we want to be representing all these directions within that building. The building needs to hold that energy. Because otherwise, you might find, especially with sleep, if the north is missing, the north is about the ears. If you're not sleeping you tend to get earache and tinnitus. And if you have a home that has the north area completely missing, or there is some what we call poison energy in the north, then you'll find you can't sleep very well. And then you might find that your ears start to suffer, or your kidneys, because the kidney is also associated with the north. And that's just for the inside. It's a completely different map for the outside. But why am I mentioning this for sleep? So for sleep, my recommendation, and again it's a very basic one, it doesn't apply to everybody or every situation, but my recommendation for sleep would be to have your room in the northwest of your home, because the northwest is very quiet. It's got very still energy, which is what you want. You want yin energy. You don't want yang energy when you're trying to sleep. You want it all still. And then the worst place for your bedroom would be the southeast. Give me a time thing, no? Okay. So the southeast is very, very active, so we wouldn't want you to have your bedroom. We wouldn't want you to have your bedroom in the southeast because it's considered too active. And of course, I'm skipping through a lot of this ancient theory for the sake of brevity, but if you can see this, there are 64 different types of directions that I would align somebody's bed to, or their desk. It doesn't just have to be a bedroom, or it could be an office, it could be the CEO's desk. So bedroom direction is really important. We've touched upon that in the earlier slide. And it's a myth that you have to sleep north-south. Just because we have the Earth's magnetism north-south doesn't mean we have to sleep that way. Some people it's very relaxing for them to do so, but other people prefer east-west, and some people prefer sub-cardinals. And it just depends on how your astrology is matching the compass, because we all have directions that are good for us. So the next principle to bear in mind when you're trying to sleep is to have strong protection behind you. So this is a picture of Hong Kong, and you can see the Victoria Peak behind, gives it a stable back, and then the water in front is the activity. And this is a perfect kind of armchair formation. It's very stable. And we want to set up the same principle inside your bedroom, right? So I'd like to invite you all again to do another practical exercise with me, please. So everybody on the front row, just sit still. The second row, could you please stand up? The next row, just sit. The next row, so Marky's row up. Could you stand up? Your row, please. So every other row, if you'd like to stand up. I think that's right, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so what you need to do, I'd like you to please approach somebody in front of you from the back and sort of stare at their neck. Come a bit closer, potentially. Don't be shy. Oh, you're not playing. So how does it feel for the person who is sat down? Pardon? I can't hear you. Intrusive, yeah. It feels intrusive. It's like you get your heckles up, don't you? Okay, enough. And so this is what happens when you have like a bedroom with a bed in the middle of the room, which amazingly some people put a bed in the middle of the room, or if you put a bed under a window. So there's a lot of chi coming in from the window, okay? And so we always want to have our back covered and to ideally have a view in front of us, so a view of the door, the main door, rather than the bathroom door. Because that gives us a feeling of security. It's very similar to the savannah theory that is being discussed in biophilia. And really, a lot of design needs to better take account of that sort of fight-flight sensation that we have because of the amygdala. We're still quite programmed to have this subtle level of threat. You know, if we have a desk or a bed in a weak position of a room, we feel a little jumpy. We're not quite certain why, unless you understand the way the brain works. So always cover your back. I had no part in the setup of this, so I don't have much protection at my back, but it's not too bad. So, a few last tips about the bedroom layout. Try to have them have a sense of stability left and right. You don't want too many. You don't want too high or too low, one side or the other. We want balance. We want to be able to control our environment, our immediate environment, as much as we can. Oh yeah, and also don't have extremes in height, because that can be uncomfortable. If you've got like a really tall wardrobe very close to the bed, it's just a little in your face. Blackout blinds, really important. They activate the pineal gland and you produce more melatonin. Circadian lighting, if you can have it, is really good. Bedroom colours, they need to be restful. They need to be pale, pastel, gentle patterns. No stripes or geometrics, because geometrics are like a fire energy. They're too fiery. No bold primary colours, again it's too clashing. And you need to have restful colours in the bedroom. And sometimes we need a little help from health products and things like that. Nikken have just brought out a fantastic grounding mat. I take it to every hotel that I have to stay in, and it helps to ground your energy, because we have concrete everywhere. We're wearing shoes all the time. We very rarely have contact with our feet and the earth, and we need magnetism in order to help our blood circulate better and help the blood detoxify. And so there are all these little products that are called passive well-being products, because you don't have to do anything in order to benefit from them. And they create this amazing sort of magnetic cocoon, like a little sleep system, where you can feel the benefit of that extra magnetism, and they also help to channel the heat, reflect the heat better in duvets and things like that. So it makes for a much more comfortable sleep experience. And again, it's related, it's not feng shui magnets, but it's related. So really, this is a picture of a project I worked on with David Morley Architects. It's the St Hugh's College in Oxford University. It's the new China Centre. And really, I want to make sure that you understand that feng shui is not just for interiors, and it's not just for sleep or residential. You know, there's so much it can be applied to. It can be applied to city planning. It can be applied to hospitality. I've worked on a few hotels, and wellness projects are an obvious one, and I would be as bold to say that I don't think you can call yourself a wellness centre if you haven't taken on board the principles, the ancient healing principles of things like feng shui. because I see so many mistakes in spa design. I just wish they'd had a word with me. So it's also, I've never worked in a school, but I would love to. And it just creates really desirable and vibrant spaces when you take account for the classical ancient energies. It just makes a space beautiful and it feels really good. That's the main thing. It has this, there's a qualitative sort of data, if you like, that comes out of all these testimonials. You can't necessarily prove it, but you can prove it by having the experience of it. Although there are some funky experiments happening recently with measuring the change in energy, actually. So I think physics is catching up, really. We're starting to be able to prove these things, so it's quite exciting. And yeah, so it's so just a tiny bit about me. I've lectured for the American Institute of Architects and REBA. I was at their Wellbeing Conference in Birmingham 2011. I've helped the Prince's Foundation with the Chinatown work, and I've worked for all those companies to help improve their office space. And I've got 20 plus years of experience, and I speak and train, and I've got a book coming out in June 2020 called 5D Wellbeing. And so thank you so much for listening and participating, and I'll hand you to my colleague Stephen.
Okay, hello everyone. Everyone hear me okay? Yeah? Thank you, Sarah. That was very interesting. Great talk. A few thank yous to get out of the way first. Thank you to IWBI, to Kristen, Mona and Anne-Marie for inviting me back here. I spoke about mindfulness last year. This year I'm going to speak about sleep, so thank you for having me back. Thank you to Future Build as well, actually. I was supposed to be in Berlin at a hotel conference this week, which was cancelled due to the coronavirus, and I've ended up spending some time here, and I have been to some incredible talks on innovation, sustainability, some brilliant stuff here, so it's a great resource if you're on a learning journey. So a little bit about me. I was a lawyer for 20 years, but I jumped over the wall and escaped. Now I serve humanity. I was a real estate lawyer, working in hotels and real estate, so real estate is in my DNA. I understand it inherently. I also had a 20-year passion in wellness, so I practiced yoga for 20 years. And then 5 years ago, I became a teacher, been teaching yoga meditation around the world, working with the likes of Google, BDO, global law firms, doing corporate wellness programs, as well as advising businesses on the built environment. So it's two things really that I do, behavior and buildings. So I'm going to talk to you today about sleep. This is my yoga brand, and I'm going to bring in some yoga because I think it's important actually that we take control of some of the sleep issues ourselves, and yoga gives us the tools to do this. So, sleep. I thought we'd start with a quiz if that's okay. So it's just a simple hands up for yes or no. The first question is, do we have to have 8 hours sleep every night? Who thinks yes? Hands up. Who thinks no? Okay, so that's quite mixed actually, which pretty much reflects the expert's opinion. The jury is out. My own opinion is that you don't need 8 hours sleep. If we needed 8 hours sleep, we'd be extinct. If we had an inflexible requirement as a species for 8 hours, we'd be extinct. That's the Matthew Walker view, that you need 8 hours sleep, by the way. How much sleep you need depends on your general health, on seasonality, how you feel, when you're in love, you don't need so much sleep. Anyone remember what it was like to fall in love? No? No one here? Okay. But you don't need as much sleep, right? Number 2, do we wake 10 to 15 times a night? Hands up, yes. Hands up, no. We do actually wake 10 to 15 times a night, but we rebound back into sleep quite quickly. It's the primal urge of checking the cave, making sure there isn't a saber-toothed tiger waiting to eat us. Number 3, can you fall asleep with your eyes open? Yes? No? So you can fall asleep with your eyes open. You may have seen people do it in meetings. You may have picked up your book that you were reading the night before and realised that you read the same passage 3 times. See, we do fall asleep with our eyes open. This is one of the issues about sleep tech. It doesn't really measure when we fall asleep with our eyes open. Number 4, do we need less sleep as we get older? Yes? No. So again, quite a split. But actually we need the same amount of sleep. It's just that older people tend to nap more and sleep less perhaps at night, a bit like younger children or pets. I'm not putting older people and pets in the same category, of course, but we are inherently polyphasic, so we can sleep during periods during the day. Number 5, is it a good idea to nap during the day? Yes? Any no's? So again, we've got quite an even split. So the jury's out on this one too, but I personally believe it is a good idea to nap during the day. If you're going to nap, don't make it longer than 90 minutes. If you're really suffering from insomnia, it's not a good idea to nap. There's some research that came out of Lausanne University the other week which says 2 naps a week reduce the heart attack rate by 48%. So the mysterious world of sleep, there's still so much we don't know about sleep. We're just beginning to scratch the surface. Previously, I think sleep has been regarded a bit like a badge of honour by corporate people. I didn't have any sleep last night, I did an all-nighter. Sleep is for wimps. I'll get all the sleep I need when I die. That's changing. Also, a lot of coaches telling you to get up at 5 in the morning and spend 2 hours on personal development has been recently said to be dangerous. You need to actually get more sleep. This is an idea that we can sacrifice sleep for work that's come from America, where most redundant ideas come from. So the world of sleep basically tells us now that sleep is good. A lot of athletes like Usain Bolt, Roger Federer, championing 10 hours sleep. So really performance is related to sleep. So recent research is telling us that sleep is all about brain function. Now we did know previously that it's a lot to do with regulating other systems of the body, hormonal, cognitive, immune, cardiovascular, but the latest research is telling us it's about brain function and preserving brain function. So this is NREM, sleep. Now sleep is divided into 2 categories. You've probably heard of REM sleep, rapid eye movement. So that was discovered by a Swiss scientist in the 1960s who was doing experiments on his teenage son. I know it sounds a bit strange, but he noticed that his son's eyes were flickering, and he called that rapid eye movement. And he also noticed there was another period of sleep called NREM sleep, non-rapid eye movement. And NREM sleep is the juicy area of sleep. It's the restorative, relaxing, healing part of sleep. And essentially it's divided into 4 stages. So NREM 1 is really where you kind of drift in and out of sleep. If you're woken up, you'd say, I wasn't really asleep. Stage 2 is where you begin to enter a deeper sleep, where the brain produces K waves or sleep spindles. You would say you were asleep if you were woken up. Stage 3 is a deeper sleep, producing what are called slow waves. Again, that's a deeper area, and stage 4 is deep sleep. So those are the 4 stages of NREM sleep. REM sleep, this is the area where we really dream. So if NREM sleep is the mental filing cabinet, REM sleep is the processing. And they're different different body activities while we go into NREM and REM sleep. In NREM sleep, the body is more still, temperature is reduced. In REM sleep, eyes are flickering, muscles are tense. So REM sleep is classically where we dream. And there's been a lot written about dreams over hundreds of years in religious traditions. Look at the work of Jung, the work of Freud. Current thinking on dreams are dreams only have the meaning that you ascribe to them. So really I want to impress on you the point that sleep is about brain function more than anything else. That's the most important area of sleep at the moment. So if you don't get enough sleep, 4 areas that might not happen as well for you. Number 1, you may not be able to pay attention or focus. So that's dealing with the prefrontal cortex. Number 2, you might not be able to integrate or remember things. That's dealing with the hippocampus in the middle of the brain. Number 3, you might be a bit more reactive and edgy. That's dealing with the mesolimbic area of the brain. Number 4, advanced motor function like handstands or running fast can be impaired. In fact, there's been a lot of press about Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep, where he really gained a lot of medical accolades was for discovering that slow wave sleep, when we're in NREM, actually reduces a plaque, a beta amyloid protein, which is significant in reducing Alzheimer's disease. So if people are saying to you, I don't need to sleep, I feel I don't need to sleep very much, it's not affecting me, you can remind them that you're significantly higher at risk of contracting Alzheimer's disease later in life. So your eyes are not just for seeing. And this blew my mind when I first actually understood this and learned about this. But behind our eyes are cells called retinal ganglion cells. And this is to do with, as Sarah mentioned, circadian rhythm. So circadian rhythm is the day and night cycle, the cycle of the earth, the light and dark cycle. And we've become very out of sync with that cycle. So this daily cycle is very important, and the retinal ganglion cells measure daylight and effectively keep us in tune with that cycle. Now, this has significance on a cellular level. So most of our cells, as most living organism cells, have a circadian aspect to them. So the precursors of life, cyanobacteria, have a circadian element to their cells. So what it means really is getting enough daylight is when we lived outside, where we evolved from savannas, we actually operated within the natural cycles of the earth. We slept when it was dark, we woke up when it was light. We've become incredibly out of sync. And actually, if you look at this on a wider level in terms of consuming, we're over-consuming because we're sort of out of sync with the natural cycle of the earth. So 21st century insomnia, too much noise, too much speed, too many demands on you, too much technology. A lot of people don't sleep very well, so people complain of being on the edge of sleep, junk sleep. I want to try and give you some habits that will help you sleep in a better way. What we call in Hindi sattvic sleep, pure sleep, so that you wake up happy, optimistic and focused. But this is the reality. So I want to ask you, how have you been sleeping? Did anyone wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning this morning? Okay, what did you do? Did you look at the clock? Right, okay. So when you looked at the clock, you did a calculation. Then you did a risk assessment. Then you're awake. Then you're looking at your emails, maybe your dating apps, whatever you look at, and suddenly you're awake and you're in the day. So number 1 tip for today, don't look at the clock when you wake up in the middle of the night. Don't even have your phone in the bedroom. So really we sleep when we feel safe. We'll come on to what this means, but it's really sleep is a holistic approach to your life. So whether you're surviving or thriving, so if your nervous system is nervous, you will sleep badly. So how you run your day is how well you sleep. So yoga gives us the tools to actually start to look at this. Yoga is very good at helping us eliminate what I think are the 3 causes of bad sleep: stress, anxiety, depression. The medical world is very good at looking at symptoms, but not actually at looking at causes. So we have the 5 sufferings in yoga, which we talk about: clinging, egoism, aversion, attachment, forgetfulness. And we have the 5 koshas. The ancient yogis thousands of years ago drew on this idea of 5 bodies: the physical body, the energy body, what's your energy levels like today, the emotional and mental body, what are you thinking, your wisdom body, accessed through meditation, intuition, and your bliss body when you're feeling relaxed. So living on all these levels is a key to actually having a better night's sleep. So sleep problems are not created at night. This is what I want to stress to you. When your head hits the pillow and you can't sleep, it's not the pillow that's caused the problem. It's your lifestyle. A lot of emphasis recently on taking breaks throughout the day. This is a great book if anyone is interested, by a guy called Alex Song. rest, taking naps throughout the day, structuring rest within your day. People like Charles Darwin, very, very big on that. And rest can be actually active as well. Rest is a skill. Walking, exercise, play. So very quickly before we move on to the next section on buildings, I want to just give you some takeaways, 7 non-negotiables which I think will help you sleep better. So eat breakfast within 30 minutes of rising, decrease stimulants like caffeine, don't drink coffee after 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, increase hydration in the morning, have a glass of water, go to bed early 3-4 times a week, healthy boundaries with technology, no phone in the bedroom, get 30 minutes of daylight a day and 20 minutes of exercise, and that can be just walking. So a glass of water in the morning, also very good at waking you up. No caffeine after 5 o'clock, and actually even decaffeinated coffee can have up to 30% of caffeine in it. Chocolate has caffeine in it. Cough medicine has caffeine in it. Breakfast within 30 minutes of rising. Big fan of things like protein in the morning, nut butter, very useful to get the brain working. Healthy boundaries with technology. This was supposed to be someone reading in bed, but it's the nearest I could find, reading a 1970s book on cars. Getting outside, a bit of exercise. Okay, so now let's move on to section 2, bedroom like a sanctuary. I'm not going to touch too much on that because I think Sarah did a great job of actually looking at bedroom design. I'd like to go into the science behind it. And for me, there is no better place than the Well Building Standard. This standard is scientifically backed, is thoroughly researched, and here you can see Well version 2, which has the 10 concepts. Originally it had 7, now it's expanded to 10. And I'm just going to go through some of these concepts very briefly to make you understand whether you're developing a 200-bedroom co-living building, whether you're looking at hotel refurbishment, or whether you're just looking at home. Some tips that you can take away from the standard that can help you. First of all, air quality. It's obvious. Every day you open a newspaper, there's something about air quality. But indoor air quality now kills more people than outdoor air quality. So when we talk about indoor air quality, what do we mean? We're talking about certain chemicals. If you're walking around the show, you'll hear volatile organic compounds, particulate matter, formaldehyde, radon, ozone, CO2. These are all can be current in the air. Now, it's all very well to say they're in the air, but how do they get into the air? Well, if you're redecorating your bedroom or refurbishing your flat or your building, pay attention to the materials that you use, the paints, the sealants, the adhesives. Earlier this week, there's some brilliant pictures here on the innovation section. A company called Adaptivate talking about a hemp-based plasterboard, which emits no VOCs, the same price. There's a company called Camperbond talking about an adhesive, biomass-based, from brewing material, no formaldehyde. Pay attention to the materials, low VOC paints. Also to the behaviour in the room. What cleaning materials are you using? There's a lot you can do with air quality. And some obvious things like dust as well impairs sleep. Lighting, well, Sarah touched on this. I'm going to go into this more in the tech section, but lighting is incredibly important, and the Well Building Standard is very helpful. Initially, really, it was applied in offices, and we look at lighting in terms of maximising daylight, in terms of bigger floor plates, in terms of reducing solar glare, but also this word circadian. And the Well Standard actually has its own way of measuring this. It's something called equivalent menolopic lux, actually using artificial lighting to be able to get you in sync with circadian lighting systems. There's some great circadian systems out here. We had a talk earlier this week, also on this stand, from a company that's put artificial skylights in basements, LED blue light, and the powerful effect it had on people. Thermal comfort, temperature. Well, anyone know what the ideal temperature for sleep is? 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, which is a lot cooler than you might think. Again, linked to the cycle of the Earth when we slept outside. Mind. So the Mind module is very interesting. It talks about design, restorative spaces, bringing plants into the bedroom. Can be a good idea, making sure they're the right sort of plants, but designing in a way that is actually restorative. Sarah touched on colours and layouts. Materials, very important. So I touched on the kind of materials that may be embedded in your bedroom, but what about the materials in your sleep environment? So using natural materials, using linen, mattresses that don't emit volatile organic compounds. Science tells us that when we're around natural materials, we emit less cortisol, the stress hormone, in our saliva, intuitively. Oh, this is a good one, sound. Okay, so the difference between sound and noise. Noise is unpleasant, sound is subjective. But there's an awful lot we can do about sound. When we talk about sound in the World Building Standard, it's very helpful. It gives scientific practical tips. So for example, we talk about sound reverberation rather than sound absorption, so sound moving. We want to try and stop sound reverberation. How do we do that? Sound masking techniques. Sound masking techniques can be white noise machines. Actually, as I was researching this, I discovered that there's pink noise. There's actually white noise, pink noise, and brown noise, interesting enough. So an example of white noise would be like a waterfall, pink noise, lower frequency, like rain falling on a window, brown noise, like waves in the background. Sound masking, also sound reducing surfaces. So if you're using acoustic tiles, they'll absorb sound. There's something called noise reduction coefficient, which measures how well surfaces absorb sound. So cork, for example, is a good material, much better than glass. To give you an example of my own flat, actually, when I was studying for my Well AP exam, I had a front door that was very noisy, and I looked at some of the ways in which you can actually increase sound insulation and sound absorption. So I put down the side what are called gaskets, which are rubber insulations, on the floor, a sweep, and I made sure the door was a solid door slab, and it made a massive difference in terms of sound insulation. So getting into a little bit more detail, it's quite interesting to look at actually what the right level of sound is in a bedroom. So we measure sound pressure through decibels. So here we've got a table telling us that quiet bedroom at night is around 30 decibels, something like that. I thought you might be interested to see what snoring actually equates to on the decibel range. It's pretty high, 80 decibels. So if you're sleeping next to a snorer, it's about the equivalent of a washing machine. There was one lady who apparently got up to 110 decibels. I think she lives on her own. But it's also the same. 110 decibels is also the sound that the central line can produce at maximum volume. It's a dangerous level of sound. So this is just a brief example of how the company behind the International World Building Institute that did the research, Delos, have been using this in hotel rooms, taking perhaps the best, a summarized version of this to apply into hotel rooms. So here we can see the Mind Modular Aromatherapy, that word circadian lighting again, a dawn simulator, shower infuser reducing chlorine, energy light night, some sort of lighting that guides you through the room, and it looks like it's sort of distorted there a bit. Sorry, we've got a mattress, and we've got air purification as well. So using a lot of the different standards that we've touched on. So here's an example of the room. Lovely purple ambient shades reflecting perhaps towards the end of the day. There you can see the Lumi clock. There you can see the air purifier. So finally then on to tech, sleep tech. Well, the sleep tech market was valued by The Economist last year at $80 billion US. It is massive. And really there's all kinds of things out there. Intelligent mattresses that will measure your heart rate, will measure your breathing rate, that will tell you how well you've slept, will tell you whether you've moved. Mattresses that regulate temperature. So if you're getting the cold shoulder from your partner, you can move over to the other side of the bed. Or if she's blowing hot and cold, you can decide which side of the bed. Sorry, no more jokes on that. Can't think of any more anyway. Temperature regulation. Circadian lighting. So this is an interesting device from Philips, which actually this hue light bulb actually changes colour. Here we've got the Dawn Simulator Lumi body clock. Gravity blanket. This is a good one actually. I've tried this. This blanket is heavy. It's got a weighted volume inside of it, and what it does is it actually induces the production of serotonin and decreases the production of cortisol. This is quite an interesting one. Sleep mask, so this is really just about blocking out sound and sending relaxing signals to your brain. The sleep headband. Now this is one of my favourite ones, I must admit. So this one here, through the headband, it plays audio. relying on bone conduction, so you don't need earphones. So again, it's measuring heart rate variability, brain waves, breathing rates, and at the back it's got EEG sensors. So it's one of the most advanced systems out there. So there's a lot of devices, that's just something that would go under a mattress for tracking sleep, but should we really be tracking our sleep? I mean, The Economist also suggested that there's a new term of insomnia called ortho-insomnia, where people can't sleep because their device is telling them they haven't slept well enough. So there is a theory that says that is it a good idea to actually measure your sleep? If you're a high-performance athlete, maybe you want to know. If you're an ordinary person, maybe you don't want to know. So on to the final few. This is a favourite of mine, the Sleep Pebble. So this is a device that actually emits signals, bringing your brain into alpha waves. So basically we have 4 brain waves. Most of the time we're in beta when we're walking around, alert, alpha, relaxed, theta, dreamlike, delta, very relaxed, deep sleep. This pebble can induce alpha brain waves. There's sleep drinks, which are infused with herbs like valerian and chamomile. Breathing devices. This will produce lights which will help you breathe in a synchronized manner on the floor. I can see my friend James in the audience who has a sleep clothing range as well. I'm going to give him a shout. And then finally, the best till last, the sleep robot. Yes, you heard it correctly. Described as a sleep companion. What does that mean? This device actually mimics your breathing. It's made of soft materials. It measures your sleep. Apparently version 2 might be more interactive, but that's not really for me to discuss. So there we are. A brief discussion on buildings, on behaviour and on tech. Thank you.